Hello, welcome to another episode. My name is Rick, and I have with me here Edris in our series from Singleness to Maybe I Do. Edris, what is the topic for today?
Well, last time we was here, we talked about, we say we're gonna cover all the steps to a godly marriage. So we did step 2 last time, which was, am I prepared for marriage?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're gonna look a little bit about step 3 and step 4.
Okay, and step 3, today the title is,
Who should I marry?
now this is very important. We find out, okay, how we can tell if we are prepared for marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I feel like I'm prepared for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many options out there.
There's thousands of options out there. It depends on where you stay. If you stay in a big state like New York, thousands,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of women.
Or, yeah, if you're a woman
or
the
if
man.
or the yeah.
Yeah. But now the important thing is, should I marry anybody
That's
that
the
shows
question.
interest in me?
That's not how it works.
Yes, and I like that topic, who should I marry? Because when you're looking at marriage, the difficulties of marriage, you're looking at the divorce rate nowadays, right? A lot of people afterwards, they realize, man, I made a bad choice.
Yeah.
So knowing who to marry, choosing the right person is of utmost importance
Yeah.
in a marriage.
Yeah, it is. Because you when you look at like right now, divorce rate is more than 50%,
Whew.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
That means every day, as we speak right now, maybe there's a couple that's going through a divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I read somewhere, even for the folks that are still married, even if you find the right person, let's say per se you marry, it says even the people who's supposed to be together, the time that they choose to marry is also not the right time. So not only who should you marry, but when is the right time to also marry? Because you could be with the right person, but it's not the right time.
Man, so now we're dealing with wisdom.
We're dealing with
So
wisdom.
this marriage didn't require wisdom.
Great wisdom.
All right. So I'm excited. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. So let's start. Okay, how do we know who should we get married to?
Okay, so one of the first way to know, right? We talked about this before, I believe, in the previous videos that we do, where we talked about before, even thinking about marriage, the first thing you got to do, you got to go in counsel with God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we bring in step 4 into this, right? Step 3 is who should we marry, but step 4 is we have to seek counsel
Okay.
to know who should we marry.
Okay.
So the first thing that you got to do is you got to get right with God.
Yes.
Because remember, I always stress about this, right? Get your relationship right with God. Get your relationship right with God. Because the first person you're going to go in counsel with is God.
Yeah.
Asking him, because you've been counseling with him before,
In preparation, in singleness.
Yeah, exactly. So so now you're going to counsel with him again. Now, God, okay. You say, you call me to marriage. Now, I know that I'm ready. You let me know that I'm ready for marriage. Now, God, I'm asking you, who should I marry?
Yes.
And then again, you got to be very specific. You got to ask God for specific, either through providence or lead me to a specific text in the Bible that speak to my situation that can help me to know, okay, who should I marry?
All right. So let's say now I'm a young man. I'm at the church and I see this good-looking young lady, right? And my heart is attached to her. And I say, you know what? She looks like she's a godly woman. Maybe that's the one that the Lord tell me I should marry. Because let's say I was praying last night and I say, okay, who the first person who say hi to me, you know what I'm saying? That's the one that the Lord gave me. So I go to church and she's, hi, Brother Rick. So does that answer my prayer?
Nah, that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Okay.
And let's say you've been praying, okay, asking God for specific signs or text in the Bible. Let's say that were the case, right? Now, when you see this young lady, should you approach the young lady? No, that's not how it works. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today is probably going to sound foreign to all of you guys. But again, because there are biblical principles, and that's why the divorce rate is so high in the world today, because people are not following biblical principles when it comes to these things.
Okay.
So we talk about seeking counsel from God. Now we're going to also talk about seeking counsels from God-fearing parents. Now, we mentioned this last time. We know not everyone has God-fearing parents.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't have God-fearing parents, that's okay. You know, there's men and women of experience in the church that you can also seek counsel with as well.
Yeah.
That can represent kind of like a parenting figure for you if you don't have God-fearing parents.
And I can't stress that enough. The Bible says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. And the one thing you want to be safe. I mean, you can never be like 100% sure, but one thing you really want to be safe is choosing a life partner.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to read this quote, right, to you guys from Messages to Young People, right? It's a book called Messages to Young People. In page 447, paragraph 1 of that book, it says that if there is any subject, right, that should be considered with a calm, reason, and unpassioned judgment, it is the subject of marriage. It says, if ever the Bible is needed as a counselor, it is before taking a step that binds person together for life.
Yes. See, and I like that. It says unpassioned judgment.
Unpassioned judgment.
That means that you have to put aside the passion. Yeah, I really like this person. I feel like I'm in love, etc., etc. This person can make my life excited. You have to put that to the side and really start analyzing this thing in the light of the Word of God.
Yeah. And the quotation went on to say it is here that the youth show less intelligence than than on any other subject.
Woo.
It is here that they refuse to be reasoned with.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my step. Before you even approach a young lady or young man, say accept a young man's approach as a young lady, the young man, if you're the one that's seeking, you have to first go to that young lady's parents. Now, I know that sounds, whoa, what do you mean go to the parents first?
This day and age.
This day and age. And in 2024, you mean I got to go talk to somebody's parents first before I talk to them in 2024? That sounds foreign.
Yeah. Very.
That sounds very old-fashioned.
Yeah.
It's about as old-fashioned as the Bible.
Yeah.
But the Bible is still relevant today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why there's so many divorce and there's so many unhappy marriages, is because people are not following the biblical principle.
So before you go further, why is it important for the young men to go to the parents?
I'm glad you asked that, so that you don't break God's command. Let me tell you this. As a young man, do you know that if you go and you start talking to a young lady and win her affection before talking to her parents, do you know that you are breaking the 8th commandment?
Yeah? Tell me more.
What does the 8th commandment says? Thou shalt not steal.
Yes.
And how do you not steal? By asking. If you want something, instead of taking it, the person who owns it, you ask them for it.
Okay.
If they say, okay, you can have it, then it's yours.
So you're saying like the parents own the person?
You word it, you don't word it properly.
He said it.
This is what I'm saying. This is what you have to understand. As a young lady,
yes,
you are so precious to God. And queen and princesses are protected.
Yeah.
Because they belong to someone.
Yeah.
And a young lady, at all aspects of your life, you belong to someone.
Yeah.
First, you belong to God.
Yes.
And the second person you belong to is you belong to your parents.
Yeah.
Think about it. We never think about this, right? You ever think about it when you go to a wedding, at the appropriate time, the minister will ask, who gives this woman to be wed?
Yeah.
And then the father will raise his hand, or whoever, if there's no father, whoever the guardian is, will be like, hey, I do.
Yeah.
It's for that reason. It's because at all points of her life, she belongs to someone.
You know what's interesting, as you mentioned that a lot of these things we doing by tradition, but we don't really
understand the concept,
deep
why
meaning of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's important you say that, like, the father says, I do. And matter of fact, the father usually walk with the young lady down the aisle, and as the husband come and take her from him. Yeah. So now he becomes the leader of that young lady.
Yeah. Now once that passage happened, the young lady no longer belongs to her parents. Now she belongs to her husband.
Which is why even her name changed.
Yes.
Good stuff.
And she's and it's not again, we gotta make that clear. It's not a possession type of thing. It is because a young lady is so precious.
Yeah.
Queen and princesses are protected. She is always protected. She always belongs to someone at all aspects of her life. From the day that she comes into the earth until she passed away, she belongs to someone.
Yeah.
And that's the shelter, that's the protection. Now, that's the reason why, and again, this day and age, the way they do things is like the man win her affections, and then when he's ready to propose, that's when he goes to the parents and he asks for the permission. No, you've already breaking God's command because you've already went behind
Matter
her
of fact,
parents.
I take it further back, because if that's the way we're going to approach it, I take it further back. If the man didn't inquire of the Lord for that young lady, he's already breaking God's
He's
command,
already
because
breaking
he's
God's command.
robbing God himself.
Exactly.
And which is why, and I like that, which is why it's important to seek counsel of the Lord first. And I
First.
think if you see that young lady that you like, you inquire of the Lord. Lord, is this the one you have for me?
Exactly. The Lord is the one that gives the first permission.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about asking God for signs, specific texts in the Bible, or providence. When God has revealed, okay, you know what, okay, you should go after this young lady. Now I got to talk to her God-fearing parents.
Yeah.
And if she does not have a God-fearing parent, you got to find out whether the men and women of experience in the church that she's connected with, you can reach out to them. And again, and also all of that is to protect the young lady and also to protect you as a young man.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you have to bypass all of these before you actually get to the person, that means you've already covered a lot of preliminary grounds. That means before the parents give permission for you to talk to their daughter, they're gonna get to know who you are.
Yeah.
And they're gonna tell you about their daughter, who their daughter is.
Yeah.
And they can say, okay, whether or not you guys will be a good match. So you've already covered a lot of preliminary grounds.
Yeah.
And if these things were to be practiced, there will be so much heartaches that save, so much breakup, so much like pain people suffered from getting into relationships that they should have never been in the first place.
Yeah.
They could have saved themselves a lot of trouble, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But it's because these things are not being practiced, or maybe these things are not known.
I think
they
pretty much for
claim.
the most part it's not known, because a lot of these things are not being taught. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We for the most part we follow the direction of the world.
Of the world.
We're not looking at the way God does things.
Yeah, and that's why we're always going to get results like this, like the high divorce rates, unhappy marriages. It's because we're not following how God wanted to be instituted.
Yeah.
And God wanted to be that way, that you counsel with God first, and then you go to the parents, the God-fearing parents, and then you ask. So now, after you go to the God-fearing parents, right? You've cut all that ground, right? They said, okay, you know what? I've got to know this young man, and he seems like a good young man. His vision, his passion, everything matches. He'll be a good fit for my daughter. Now it is the parents that's gonna introduce you to their daughter.
Okay.
Now they give you permission. Okay, you can go ahead and begin to court my daughter. Now he was about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say something like the parents, because one of the things we read in the quote earlier, it was saying that it is here that the youth show less intelligence than any other subject, right?
Yeah.
It is here that they refuse to be reasoned with. And like you were saying, because sometimes you may feel so attached to someone, you cannot see their blind spot. You cannot see the negative things. And your parents, because they are more experienced, they can see things that you don't see, especially if you have like a father and a mother, and the young men come, the dad can see things in that young man that you as a young lady are unable to see.
And that's why it's important to talk for your parents to vet that young man first, because once you already start talking to that young man and then there's already feelings going, anything that anyone tells you, you're not gonna listen to.
You don't want to hear that stuff. You think they're hating on you.
Like they hating on me.
Yeah.
I don't want, your parents who wants the best for you, like, man, they just hating on me, or they don't want me to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's why it says it's there that young people make the most mistakes, because feelings are involved. The voice of reasons go out the window.
Yeah.
You can't reason with them. It's like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm gonna do. So these steps are put in place so that the person is vetted. By the time they got to you, okay, I'm not saying that all courtship will lead to marriage, but at least at the bare minimum that, okay, this is a good potential person that I should be courting.
Yeah. You want to err on the side of caution.
Of course, you want to err. You always want to err in the side of caution. And I have another quotation, right? It says that same book, Messages to Young People, right? Now, page 450, paragraph 1, it says, if children would be more familiar with their parents, if they would confide in them and unburden to them their joys and sorrows, they would save themselves many of future heartaches. It says, when perplexed to know what course is right, let them lay the matter just as they view it before their parents, and ask advice of them.
Yes.
Who are so well calculated to point out their dangers as godly parents, who can understand their peculiar temperaments so well as they.
I like this.
It's the parents, because think about it. Who knows you better?
Your parents.
Your parents, because not only they gave birth to you, they raise you and they watch how you move, how you make decisions, how you deal with things. They know you better than. Sometimes we don't think our parents know us. You'll be surprised. Your parents know you better than you think that you know yourself.
Yeah, but one thing I want to say, like a lot of with this quotation, it has to be a lot of times mostly godly parents.
Yeah,
Because sometimes if your parents are not godly, if your parents are like worldly, they may give you bad advice.
that's why I put the keyword godly parents, and I say if you don't have godly parents, men of women of experience in the church that are godly, right?
Yeah.
Because the godly part is important, because we all have parents, right? And that's one thing that we have to accept, that not all parents give good advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if your parents is not godly, they're gonna give you advice based on their point of view, based on the worldview. And a lot of times, parents that are not godly are not looking at biblical principle. They're looking, okay, if this man making a lot of money, regardless of how he makes the money, all right, there, go ahead.
Yeah. Because they're thinking like that's going to give you a better future, but they're not seeing the misery that you're probably going to go through.
They're gonna go through.
Yeah.
A godly parent is gonna look at not just whether or not this young man, has a mean to take care of you, but also this young man is good in character, and that this young man has God as a priority in his life, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
If God is a priority in the life, then there's a lot of things that's already covered.
Yeah.
Love for God ultimately covers a lot of things, because if someone who truly loves God is not gonna do anything that displease God.
Yeah.
So it's not even about the partner, it's about pleasing God.
Yeah.
So if it's about pleasing God, then okay, I'm not gonna treat my wife a certain way, not because it's about my wife.
Less likely
It's about
he
God.
ain't going to beat you up.
Most likely he ain't gonna beat you up.
Yeah.
He's not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
He's not gonna hide things from you.
Yeah. And he's not going to lead you away from the Lord.
He's not gonna lead you away from God.
Yeah. Yeah. And even as you were doing that quotation, like, saying like if children were more able to confide in their parents and explain things to the parents, their joy and sorrows, like, clearly, again, we have to lead that back to God, who is the number one parent.
Right. Yeah.
So again, as we're talking about these things, we have to develop the habit of being able to express to God what we're going through.
Exactly.
And tell God exactly what we're going through.
Exactly.
We'll tell God our joy, our sorrows, etc. So all these things prepare you, for trusting in God for whatever you're dealing with, and knowing that God will give you the best, to show you the best way to go about the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. And again, I know we in the 21st century, right? We're in 2024. Back in the days, it was parents that ultimately choose the spouse or choose who you marry. But in this day and age, it's something that sounds so foreign. Hey, come on, man, I'm not gonna let my dad not gonna go choose my girl for me, because hey, I gotta choose who I like.
Because we think we know better.
We think
and that's the thing. It goes into arrogance again. Like, can you imagine, like, at 18 you're making a choice for a life partner? You don't even have understanding at all, and you
don't even know what life is.
Exactly.
You don't understand life itself.
Exactly. So that's why, like, a lot of these things in the past, we think we know better, but in reality, expose our folly.
Yeah.
So
that's why we go through all the steps. Is God calling me to marriage? Am I prepared for marriage? Because an 18-year-old shouldn't be getting into a relationship because they're not ready for marriage.
Yeah.
The maturity level is not there. They don't even know what they want to do. I don't care what you tell me. You're not going to tell me an 18-year-old know what they want to do, how they're going to take care of a family.
No, most part not.
So if you don't know that at the very basics, so why should you be getting into a relationship?
Yeah.
All it's going to lead to is you breaking God's command.
Yeah.
Falling into temptation
and sin and all that.
Fornication and doing all that kind of crazy stuff.
Single parenthood, society becomes even worse.
Yeah. And that's why we have a lot of problem in society. Many times it's because people don't know about these things and not following these counsels, and they lead themselves into a relationship they should have never been in. And now they have children that they bring forth from these relationships. Now there's more suffering.
Yeah.
And the Bible says that to have children that you cannot take, to have children and you cannot take care of them is a sin.
Yeah, if a man cannot take care of his own household, he's worse than an infidel.
He's worse than an infidel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to think about these things when in the aspects of relationship. And that's why back in the days, all these things were vetted, because the parents go and choose. Like we see in the Bible, that when Isaac was about to get married, who chose for Isaac?
His father sent Eliezer to go and choose
his
wife.
father Abraham.
Yeah.
So all the principle, covered in that, right? His father was a God-fearing man. Eliezer was the men and women of experience in the church that we talk about, that is God fearing. And he was the one that the father, God fearing father, sent to go choose a bride for Isaac.
Yeah.
And how old was Isaac?
He was like 40 years old, I think.
Isaac was 40 years old.
Yeah, he was a grown man.
Think about it. At 18, we don't want our parents to choose for us. But here we have a grown man, 40 years old.
Yeah.
His parents is going to choose a wife for him.
Yeah. You know, most of us, like, nowadays, when we're choosing a partner, we're gambling.
It's a gamble. It's like, all right, she looks good. You know what?
I'm gonna throw the dice.
I'm gonna throw the dice. Let's see. Let me go see what's up with Shorty.
Yeah.
And then you start talking, and then okay, and then boom,
The house
you're
wins.
so consumed
The house
in
wins.
her beauty.
The devil win, the house win. You know what I'm saying? They say in gambling, the house always win.
Yeah.
And when you're playing this type of gamble, the devil, the world's gonna win.
The world's gonna win. You consumed by her beauty. Now you don't pay attention to any of the characters.
Yeah.
And then boom, 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 you get into a marriage. Now after all the infatuations wear off, now you start to realize, man, this ain't who I thought she was.
Yeah.
And she's realizing he ain't who I thought he was.
Yeah.
And by following biblical principles, you could save yourself from all of this.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't love God, someone who's out in some street corner selling drugs on the street will never make it to where they could be courting a young lady who's following this principle, who loves the Lord.
I like this.
And vice versa.
I like this part. He already, like, you know, one thing we read in Genesis, right? One of the reasons why God destroyed the world, it says the daughters of the sons of God, which were like, human beings who were worshiping God, went and they saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. They went and married them, right? So these guys, they already violated the key counsel from the Lord.
Of course.
Because the Bible says, like, do not be unequally yoked with
Unequally
unbelievers,
yoked.
right? So when we are talking about who should I choose for marriage, if we are following these steps, first of all, inquiring of God. Second of all, like, go to godly parents. And third of all, speak to men and women of experience in the church. It would already take out unbelievers.
Of course.
So as a Christians, you wouldn't go date some girl out there who's clubbing.
Nah.
Because these counselors would
already vet that and be like, this is not the person for you. They'll never get past these counselors and get to you.
Yeah.
And that's why I stress, as foreign as these things may sound right now in 2024, but if you think about it, what they do, as a young woman, you want to be protected.
Yeah.
As a young man too, you want to be protected.
Yeah. From
a
Jezebels out there. Yes, sir. Yes,
from
sir.
a Jezebel, you want
Yes.
to be protected from that.
Yes, yes.
So it's important that you know this principle and that you're following these principles. Now, when we ask who should you marry, right now, where should a young man go to find a wife? Is it at the church?
That's a tough thing. I would say.
Is it at the club?
No, it can't be at the club.
Okay, is it at Walmart?
It can't be.
Is it on the street? Is it at school?
It's tough. It's tough. You gotta let me know on that, man. You're the expert, man. You gotta let me know. I would think, like, if I was to say, like, being honest, I would say, most likely to the church. But you can meet somebody else at school, etc., or whatever. Yeah. But again, these criteria have to be met. Yeah. It can't just be because she's beautiful because we happen to be in the same environment. It can't be just that. Yeah. So I'll let you tell the people.
So in Proverbs 18, right, verse 22, it says, "Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtain favor of the Lord."
Yes.
Now, but where should you go to find this good wife?
It has to be from the Lord.
This virtuous wife.
It has to be from the Lord. It has to be from the Lord. Yes, yes, yes.
Proverbs 19, verse 14 tells us, "Houses and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord."
Man, this is deep. This is deep. So basically what the verse is saying, I can get my riches, I can get a house from my father, but my father cannot give me a good wife.
No.
My father cannot find a good wife for me. No. Only the Lord can give me a good wife. Oh, man.
Ultimately, it's the Lord. So which takes us back to what I always stress on is building that relationship with God, right? So if you've been counseling with God about who you should marry, now let's say we use the example of the girl we're gonna talk about is let's say her name is Erica.
Okay, that's a good name.
Erica also has been counseling with God. Now, when you go and ask God for a good wife, a prudent wife, a virtuous wife, a Proverbs 31 wife, right? Now, God is going to go to his repertoire.
Yes.
All the young lady who's been building a relationship with him,
Yes.
who's been counseling with him.
Mm-hmm.
And God is looking at what type of young man you are. And he's looking at the young lady. It's God who's going to be like, okay, you know what? This is the young lady
Fit for you.
fit for you.
Yes. Yes.
Because she also has been counseling with God.
yeah. And you know one thing, like the verse says, it didn't just say like, a wife.
No.
It says a prudent wife.
Prudent wife.
You know what a prudent
good wife.
Good wife, a wise wife.
A wise wife.
Because a lot of people, men and women, are not wise.
Nah.
You don't want to get a woman who's not wise.
Nah, she's
Because
going to lead the family to ruin.
she's going to make decisions that are not wise.
Reckless.
You know what I'm saying? And even like, so a prudent wife is somebody that has self-control.
Self-control.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's critical that we go to God for a spouse. Like, this is very serious. Like, when it comes to stuff like that, like, okay, like we read the verse. It says, houses and riches are inheritance of fathers, and the prudent wife is from the Lord. I think this is one of our, like, major mistakes.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand that we are dealing with human beings. And only God knows truly a human being.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna get a wife, and a wife is like the closest thing to you, like intimate, can make or break your life in this world and in the life to come.
Yeah.
If you have a bad wife, that can cause you to lose your salvation.
Of course, marriage affects not only this life, but the life to come. So a decision's that big, that's that important. You have to play all your cards right.
Yeah, you can go to prison too.
Of course.
Because if you start fighting in the house, police show up.
Domestic violence.
Man, you really have to go to God. I don't know how much we can stress this. You really have to go to God, whether you're a guy or a girl, when it comes to finding a spouse. It cannot be, oh, I just see this person look good, or they have a bright future ahead of them, and I'm gonna choose them. That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
You have to go to God first. And after God, then you go to your parents. And if you don't have a God-fearing parents, you have men or women of experience in the church whom you have a connection with that you can go to, and you can ask them to not only to help you find who, but to also help you pray.
Yeah.
So that you find the right person and that you make the right decision.
You're gonna need a lot of prayers, man. Like,
Man,
when you're looking for these things, you need a lot of prayers.
Listen, I read somewhere it says that if you are contemplating marriage, if you used to pray twice a day, now you must pray 4 times.
Yeah.
That means the concept is, if you used to pray a certain amount of time, you must double your prayer life. It's that important of a decision that when you contemplating that decision, you have to pray double the amount of time that you used to pray. Like, for example, Daniel used to pray 3 times a day. If Daniel wasn't a eunuch and he was looking for a wife, you have to pray 6 times a day.
Yeah.
That's how important these decisions are.
Yeah.
So again, today we covered, right, step 3 and step 4, which is who should I marry and when counsel is needed. And counsel is needed for you to know who you should marry.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say, like, before we wrap up, so as we saying these things, then after you go to the Lord and ask the Lord to give you a wife or a man that's like, according to him, then you can ask the Lord, okay, I want a wife who look like this. I want a husband who has this. You can bring these things to the Lord.
Of course, and this is the thing, right? We don't think we always like because I remember one time I was talking to one of my boys right back in the day. He was looking for a girl. I was like, man, why don't you just go and ask God for a girl, man? He's like, man, I'm not gonna ask God for a girl, man. God's not gonna give me a girl who's like, who got the
Coca-Cola shape,
the Coca-Cola shape, the body, And these are the things that was important to him. And sometimes we look at God like that, right? We think that God doesn't want to give us the desires of our heart. But we're not looking at it. It's not that God doesn't want to give us the desires of our heart. It's just that our hearts are not aligned with God.
Yeah.
Once your heart is aligned with God, God will give you the desires of your heart. And God knows what you like.
And sometimes we're not wise enough. Sometimes we don't understand. Like, some of the girls who are Coca-Cola shaped, after she have like 1 or 2 kids, the body may not be Coca-Cola no more. So all these things, like, we don't know them, but God knows them. I mean, so yes, like you mentioned, if you like a girl that's Coca-Cola shaped, or if you're a girl, you like a man that has 6-pack and all that type of stuff or whatever, you can tell God these things. That's what I'm saying. I thought you want to be friends with God. You want to be able to be open with God. If you know what I'm saying.
And these things are not the most important things, because that's what's going to happen. People are going to grow old.
Yeah.
If they're lucky enough, they're going to grow old.
Yeah.
They don't die before that.
Yeah.
They're going to grow old. And when people grow old, things start going to all like kinds of places. Like, you like a shapely woman, man, she start gaining some weight. Now bodies all over the place.
Yeah.
A man, you like a man who's in shape. He start, responsibility. He start getting old. He's not as in shape anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna have wrinkles.
Yeah.
These things gonna happen. So then, what's gonna happen? You want to leave because of that? Because if that was your priority, that's someone who just looks good.
Yeah.
No, these cannot be the priority. The priority always have to be that God sends you someone, number one, who loves God.
Yeah.
Whose God is number one in their life, and that's who's gonna be fit with the characteristics that you are looking for.
And that's the last thing I wanted to say. Sometimes we focus too much on the physical, when the most important thing about a person is not really their physical appearance, but their character,
Like their character,
their
the spiritual,
the inner person.
the inner person.
You know what I'm saying? So we really have to pray about this, because like, and I know one thing we did before one of the talk, we talked about like compatibility and all these things. That's character.
Yeah.
That's not physical. Physical is like, I would say, is the least important,
Of course.
of all these things.
Yeah, that's what we covered in that podcast we did about that.
Yeah.
That physical is not the most important thing. It's about the character, because when all is said and done, what you have left is the friendship.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
who that person is and who you are.
Yes.
And if that's what you're attracted to, man, until you die, you're gonna be attracted to each other, whether you're old, whether you're fat, whatever the case may be. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So who should I get married? We have to go to the Lord and ask the Lord to provide for us a spouse who is meet for us. Once again, this is Think About It, and we are out.